It is playoff week number 2 in the NFL, which means it's time for the NFC West Huddle. I'm Aaron Levine, joined by our friends in San Francisco, Phoenix, and LA. Today we've got Gerard Moncure, Keyshawn Ward, and Richard Sines. Just one divisional team remaining in the playoffs, the Rams at the Eagles on Sunday. They are 6-point underdogs. So the question is, to start, will the Rams beat the Eagles, and why or why not? Gerard, it's your team. You've had a pretty good read on them all season long. So what happens on Sunday?
All right, Aaron. Well, I love the fact that they've already played once. Obviously, that game was at SoFi, and the Eagles kicked their butt. So it's always harder to repeat a performance against a team when you play them the second time. But the Rams found out some things in that game. I believe it was a 37-20 drubbing at the hands of the Eagles in Week 12. What they found out was if you don't stop Saquon Barkley, you got no shot. He went wild in that game, 255 yards, a 72-yard touchdown, and another 70-yarder. So he didn't even make Jalen Hurts and the rest of that offense really work. The Rams' defensive line got dominated. They did not have great gap integrity against the run in that game. So they found out some things because of that defeat that they have to correct in order to be in the game. And they also found out some things when they beat the Vikings Monday night out in Glendale, Arizona, that can help them in terms of rushing the passer. Obviously, if you stop Saquon, you make Jalen Hurts throw the ball. That's the way you want to go. But obviously, he's elusive, and you've got to be able to put pressure on him. I think this defensive line, this young defensive line, is believing at an all-time high after 9 sacks of Sam Darnold, where they dominated the game. So between those two factors, I honestly believe they have a puncher's chance. You've got a coach that's won a Super Bowl. You have a quarterback that's won a Super Bowl. So they're not going in there scared of the Eagles. Sean McVay's been saying this for a couple of weeks now, that this team was built for this. So I expect the Rams to go in there and play a very, very competitive game. You cannot take away what Philly's been this entire year. They've been probably the best team overall in the NFC. But do the Rams have a chance to win the game on Sunday afternoon in Philly, despite bad temperatures and not great conditions? Absolutely they do.
Okay. Keyshawn, I mean, you're next. Do you think the Rams pull the upset for the second straight week?
No, because I think that the Rams, they've been pretty good in the front four, but they're going against an all-pro offensive line with the Eagles. We could both all agree that this is probably the best offensive line in the NFL, led by Lane Johnson, who's a future Hall of Famer, I might add. They're also stacked on defense. They have pretty much a Pro Bowler at every level. And then they do have a key loss in the Eagles' defense with Nakobe Dean being out for the playoffs. But I still think that Eagles' defense is hard to, move the ball against. But, even if the Rams decide to just, take away Saquon Barkley, the Eagles have an interesting stat. They're actually 4-1 when Jalen Hurts only throws 125 yards passing. So I still have faith in A.J. Brown. He can read a book on the sideline if he wants. He'll get mad. I think he'll take advantage of some of the corners on the Rams. And I think Devontae Smith could beat, the Rams within their zone defense. But I just think that, the Rams have been doing way better than what everybody expected this season. And it sucks because I'm actually I root for the Rams because my dad, he's a Rams fan. He's been a Rams fan all his life. So I was wrong last week, but I think this week it comes to an end. I think the Eagles will win out.
Listen, I talked about it on our show this week. There's just something about sports teams becoming a unifying force after a tragedy, and for some reason it lifts the players to find a next level. We saw it last week with the Rams against the Vikings, but you can go all the way back to the New Orleans Saints going 3-13 back in 2005, and then the season after Hurricane Katrina, they reached the NFC Championship for the first time in franchise history. You got the Red Sox winning the World Series after the Boston Marathon bombing, the Astros winning a World Series after Hurricane Harvey, the Vegas Golden Knights reaching the Stanley Cup Finals in their very first season in existence after the Mandalay Bay shooting. I'm not saying the Rams are going to win it all this year, but they're definitely playing for a bigger purpose, and it would not surprise me one bit if they beat the Eagles this week. In fact, I think they actually win the game, and I'm not ruling them out of being a dark horse pick to reach the Super Bowl as well. And also being from Los Angeles and seeing all the heartache and devastation down there, it makes me want to root for the Rams even more. So good luck to them this week. I think they actually pull the upset. Richard, do you think the Rams beat the Eagles, and why or why not?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. It's funny because I was making fun of, Gerard a couple weeks ago when he was talking about, he saw that this team had some juice, and I was talking about the Tupac movie, right? You got the juice now. But you know what? I saw it firsthand when the Rams played here in Glendale, and it was kind of interesting to see, the Rams kind of take over State Farm Stadium. Kudos to Michael Bidwell and the Arizona Cardinals for opening up their home and their facility and really helping out the NFL and the Rams and the Vikings. It was amazing to see the turnaround so quickly and see how it all came together and went so smoothly. But yeah, they had T-shirts that said Rams House in the team shop at State Farm Stadium. That was interesting. But I saw that juice that Gerard was talking about. I saw that kind of us against the world, that team of destiny type of look. And it was interesting to see that, boy, those 9 sacks. I saw Aaron Donald before the game, and then I was like, is he on the field? Because they were getting after Sam Darnold, that's for sure. And Aaron Donald looked like he could still play, by the way. And then I thought about Gerard when he said Aaron Donald was going to come back. I'm like, maybe he came back in this game. And Keyshawn, I just want to say I'm glad you mentioned you were rooting for the Rams towards the end there because of your father, because I was about to say you were drinking Haterade, because I was like a typical 49er, just can't root for the Rams and pick them to win. I was like, come on, man. These guys, they are rallying around each other. They're trying to win for the city. I think we should all root for them because it really is a great story. And to see them play the way they did with so much pressure, because we talked about this, right? Could this be a distraction or could it be a rallying cry? And it's turned out to be a rallying cry. You can see that they're like, look, we're going to do this for our city. And I got goosebumps hearing Sean McVay talk about it after the game and just seeing these guys block out everything, all the the tragedy that's going on around them and their families and everything, and to come out here and just kind of focus on football for a change. They were like, this challenge is nothing compared to what we're dealing with in real life. So it was cool to see.
Yeah, 9 sacks and not a single one by Jared Verse, although he did have that scoop and score, but just an incredible job by the Rams defense in the game against the Vikings last week. Next up, we're looking at all the playoff games this weekend. The Chiefs are 8.5-point favorites over the Texans. The Lions 9.5-point favorites over the Commanders. The Eagles 6-point favorites over the Rams, and the Ravens are 1-point favorites at the Bills. So the question is, how many underdogs win their game outright this week? Keyshawn, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm going to say 0. There will not be any underdogs win this week. We're going to start with the Chiefs and Texans. Yes, the Texans, play a stellar game against Justin Herbert having, Justin Herbert looking for ghosts. He was just struggling all day against the Texans defense. But I think it's going to be a different opponent when you're dealing with a 3-time champion and Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City Chiefs. Plus, the Texans struggle against Travis Kelce and the tight ends throughout the NFL. So I think, with Kelce having 3 weeks off to rest, he's going to flourish when the lights get the most brightest. And then, in the Detroit and Commanders game, that game is very intriguing because I just feel this electricity when I watch Jaden Daniels and the Commanders offense. Now, if I'm a betting man, which I'm not, I won't put no money on the game because I think that the Lions are still the best team in the NFC. They have the second most passing yards in the league. They have the 6th most rushing. And I just think this magical ride that Daniels has been on for the Commanders is going to finally come to a stop. And then, I don't want to say there's no underdogs in the Buffalo and Baltimore game. Like I was telling Richard before the show, there's not really it's a double-edged sword for anybody that loses game. The narratives with, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. They can't win a big game, so I feel bad for anybody that lose. It's a great matchup, but you guys go ahead and stamp this. Whoever wins this game will win the Super Bowl this year. And we already talked about the Eagles game. I don't think that the Rams are going to roll in Philly and beat them, so no, there'll be no underdogs that will win this week in the postseason.
So Keyshawn's going with either the Ravens or the Bills to win the Super Bowl, depending on who wins that game. Richard, you're next. How many underdogs end up winning out of these 4 games this weekend?
Well, first of all, this is a message for Keyshawn. Keyshawn, you can't say stuff on this show and I expect it to come back to you. Because I don't only keep receipts, I keep the diary, right? So I'm writing it down right now. The Bills or the Ravens have won the Super Bowl already, right? Okay, I'm going to send this version of my diary to the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and those guys, and we'll see what they have to say about that. So it's going to be interesting. I think, going back to the Rams, I think they have a chance. chance to get the upset just because of what they've been through and the momentum they have. And speaking of the Rams winning here in Arizona, Aaron, I got to give you a hard time because of your guy, Ethan McReynolds, texting me, giving me a hard time during the Rams-Vikings game. He was telling me, hey, do you know that Matthew Stafford now has more wins, playoff wins at State Farm Stadium than Kyler Murray? I was like, wow, really? You're going to go there on me? You're going to do that, you know? And so I put that in my diary as well. I've got, Ethan McReynolds giving me a hard time, and I've got Keyshawn loving Lamar Jackson as much as Aaron Levine loves Geno, right? Geno Smith. So I don't know about the bromance you guys have going on there, but I think the Bills have a chance. The Bills getting points at home. I think they could win that one, and I think the Rams have a chance to win. The other two, I'll take the favorites.
Still waiting for you to give me a decent alternative to Geno Smith up here in the offseason, but we will find that out going forward. And meanwhile, I'm giving Ethan McReynolds bonus points for texting you during that game last week.
Seneca Wallace. I'll take Seneca Wallace.
Yeah, the old school Seneca Wallace. We loved him as a backup here in Seattle. I'll go next. I'll say one thing. I'm going to go with one win for an underdog this week. I think the Texans keep it close against the Chiefs, but Kansas City is just a better team overall. I think it's too tall a task for the Commanders to go on the road and take down the Lions. So I think that underdog win comes from either the Rams or the Bills. And some would say it's not really an upset if the Bills win a playoff game at home. And I think that that could go either way. So I'm not ruling out the Ravens to find a way to get it done on the road. I'm sort of hedging my bets here. I don't think both the Rams and the Bills win, but I think one of them will. And that will be the one upset this week. I was never sold on the Vikings, not completely sold on the Eagles, as you heard earlier. So whatever happens, it's going to be a really fun weekend. Gerard, how many upsets do you think are going to take place this weekend?
Guys, I got two. I think the Bills being a dog at home that's almost ridiculous to me with the difficulties. Obviously, we know Josh Allen and the Bills have had difficulties, but so have Lamar Jackson and the Ravens getting over the hump. Give me Buffalo at home. They had a tough game against Denver. I watched that game last week, and then before you knew it, it was a blowout. That's how explosive they are. I just feel like Josh Allen has made the leap to not turning the ball over, and that's going to be the difference in this game. If Buffalo doesn't turn the ball over, I think they're going to beat Baltimore outright, and then we're going to go back to, the Rams. A little bit of history here for you, fellas. 1949 NFL championship game, Rams over the Eagles. 1989 NFC wildcard game, Rams beat the Eagles with Jim Everett in Philly. 2001 St. Louis Rams, Philadelphia Eagles. I believe it was the NFC championship game. The Rams won that game as well. Rams' history in the playoffs against the Eagles is 3-0. I feel like they've got history on their side. As we've talked about on this show, they are playing something that's bigger than just their room. They are still playing for the city of LA. And don't get it twisted. The city is taking notice of what happened on Monday night. It was in front of the entire nation to see. That same night, you know what the Lakers did? They went out against the Spurs and lost. So there is a feeling of karma and excitement and belief in the Rams right now in this city, and I think that carries over. I don't think, if you've been listening to social media and the things that are being said in the Philadelphia media, they don't think the Rams have a chance, and that is a dangerous way to go about it. That starts leaking out there. I don't care what players say, they don't pay attention. That does get into that room, and that is dangerous. And the Rams are a hot team right now. They are a dangerous team. So I like the Bills and I like the Rams. Two upsets coming up this weekend.
And who can forget the 1989 Rams team with Chris Everett as quarterback? And my ode to Jim Rome, who went to the same high school as I did. So there you go. Anyway, next topic. We're going back to our respective teams for this segment. What is the biggest question that needs to be answered for your team before March 1st? Richard, you got the honors on this one. What do the Cardinals need to figure out the next 6 weeks?
Well, I think a big question that a lot of people were asking, especially the fans, it's already been answered, right? When it comes to franchise tags, I don't think the Cardinals are going to franchise tag anybody. But before free agency gets going, a lot of the fans wanted to know, are you guys in on Kyler Murray? And Jonathan Gannon let it be known that he was going to ride Kyler Murray, that he feels he's a franchise quarterback. So that was a big question that was answered. So now they can go along with their game plan of getting him some supporting cast, right? Maybe a second wide receiver, a number 2, to team up with Marvin Harrison Jr. Get some guys on defense that can, help out the team in general. Get an edge rusher. That's one thing that they desperately need, and they lacked this season. So that was the big question mark. As soon as the season was over, people were like, a lot of fans, the ones that never liked Kyler Murray were like, I told you so. And then other ones that were kind of supporting him were kind of like, But Jonathan Gannon said at his final press conference, look, we're riding with this guy. He's proven he's a franchise quarterback, and we're going to help him by giving him a supporting cast.
Gerard, you're next. I know the Rams are still playing, but whenever that playoff run ends, they're going to have some big questions also, right?
Well, yeah, you got to figure out what's going to happen with Rob Havenstein. He's getting older. His health has been an issue this year, but when he is healthy and he's at that right tackle spot, he's dominant and the line plays better. The other one for me is Cooper Kupp. He had a big catch the other night against the Vikings, but are we going to see the Cooper Kupp that people are accustomed to? We haven't seen that for the full season this year. And some people believe he's lost a step. Some people believe he's injured, but he's just not saying it, which is the Cooper Kupp way, by the way. So for me, we've got to see, do the Rams continue to advance, and how does Cooper Kupp play as long as they continue to play? If they make it to the Super Bowl, if they make it to the NFC Championship game, if they beat the Eagles this Sunday, and he plays a prominent role, then I think, there's no thought of even the possibility of trading him and getting out of that contract. But if he has no catches, if he has very few targets, if there's little separation, and they get beat by the Eagles on Sunday, I think that's where people are going to look, because the rest of this team is super, super young. I mean, I can't think of any other spot where you have to look for replacements right now. And I know it sounds crazy because he might be the best player on the team, but he's the only guy that looks like maybe age, father time has caught up with him just a little bit. But we'll see what happens on Sunday.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on Cooper Kupp this weekend. And I'll go next. Any Seahawks fan will tell you it's finding an offensive coordinator that won't be fired after just one season. Right now, we got a couple guys reportedly linked to the job. Clint Kubiak might be the front runner, given that he's interviewing in person this week for a second interview. I don't care who they hire as long as they have a plan to upgrade their offensive line and to find someone who is on the same page philosophically with Mike Macdonald. Macdonald's from the Harbaugh coaching tree, which screams win in the trenches, run the football, be physical at the point of attack, and don't allow more than 50 sacks, which is what Geno Smith dealt with this past season. My personal pick probably won't get the job. That's Brian Schottenheimer. He was here for 3 years. The Seahawks ranked 1st, 4th, and 12th in rushing in those 3 seasons. And Geno Smith was here for the last 2 years that Schotty was here. Geno was a backup to Russell Wilson, so he's very familiar with that offense. And Mike McCarthy was fired in Dallas, so that's where Schotty was. He's presumably looking for a job again. Remember, there was a conflict there between Russell Wilson and Schotty. Schotty lost out, and he's available again now. So he would be my pick. Don't think it's going to happen. And Keyshawn, thoughts on the biggest immediate question for the Niners?
I think the biggest thought that Niner fans are thinking about is who will be the team's defensive coordinator. I'm pretty sure you guys see the headlines, who's out there and who's possibly going to make a reunion with the team, and I think we all know who it is, Robert Saleh. It's been a bunch of musical chairs since the last time, Saleh left the team and went to the Jets. We've had Saleh, DeMeco Ryans, Nick Sorensen, and then Steve Wilkes. It's like, man, they need some continuity on that side of the ball. Plus, they already got to worry about free agency. But I think they first got to figure out will Robert Saleh will be willing to not go take a head coaching job elsewhere and come back to the Bay and try to win a ring with the Niners.
Finally, the last hypothetical. If you didn't have your current head coach, which coach of the remaining teams in the playoffs right now would you want and why? I'll go first. I love Mike Macdonald, but if he wasn't here, I think the obvious choice is John Harbaugh, but I'm actually going to go with Andy Reid, not just because he says fumble Ruski better than any other coach. You've seen that commercial. Just look at his resume, though. You've got the 3 Super Bowl championships in Kansas City. Look at the work and success he had in Philadelphia as well. I mean, he took the Eagles to 5 NFC championship games and a Super Bowl there. The guy finds success everywhere he goes, and he typically has exciting offenses, which as a fan is fun to watch. He's also part of the same coaching tree as Mike Holmgren, so it would be cool to have him on the sidelines here, given his history in Seattle. Then again, I'm very happy of the current direction of the Hawks with Mike McDonald as we speak right now. Gerard, you're next. Who would you want to be the Rams coach if Sean McVay wasn't there?
Okay, Aaron, you stole my thunder a little bit. I could easily go with Andy Reid. When I worked in Philadelphia for 3 years, Andy Reid was the head coach there, and I watched him persevere 3 NFC Championship game losses. And in that town, no one's able to do that. And you know what? He came out on the other side a better coach. Obviously, the results are with Chiefs Kingdom, and the titles that they've won. But since you said Andy Reid, I'll play the game, and I'll go with another LA guy in Jim Harbaugh. I've been in that Chargers locker room a lot this year, after games, after practices, in El Segundo. And the one thing that I have learned about this team is, despite the fact that everyone liked Brandon Staley, they have confidence in Jim Harbaugh. That is a difference. There's a difference between liking your head coach and knowing that your head coach knows what to do to get you over the hump. Now, obviously, it didn't go well against the Texans. It seemed like chargering, that's what it's called down here, chargering when they lose a game. They were a 3-point favorite. They lose a game they're supposed to win. Justin Herbert obviously had a horrendous day. But the overall perception of this team now is that they are headed in the right direction. And the biggest reason for that is because they got the right guy running the show now. That's Jim Harbaugh. He knows he took the Niners, and I believe it was his first season, to the Super Bowl. He won a national championship at Michigan. He's a proven guy. So if Sean McVay wasn't here, who I think, by the way, is the best head coach in the NFL, my guy would be Jim Harbaugh.
Who's got it better than the Chargers? Nobody.
Nobody.
Keyshawn, Kyle Shanahan's done a decent job with the Niners, but what current playoff coach would you want coaching the Niners if he wasn't there?
His nemesis, Andy Reid. I'm sorry, but Andy Reid's been a quarterback guru since I've been born. Going back to his older days when he was with the Green Bay Packers, he won a championship with Brett Favre. Then, as you mentioned earlier, he went to 5 NFC championships with Donovan McNabb. Then he even gave Michael Vick his best passing season of his career back in 2011. And then now to the cherry on the top, Patrick Mahomes. Not to mention he turned Alex Smith's career around when he was with the Niners. It was terrible, but when he came to Kansas City, he became a subpar winner going to a divisional round. But I just think that with him being a quarterback guru, working with Brock Purdy and the Niners, he could finally get them over the hump and complete the quest for 6.
So we got 2 for Andy Reid. Richard, who's your preferred playoff coach if there was a head coaching opening in Arizona?
Well, I don't want to pull a Jerry Jones and pick myself because I easily could, because the Chimichangas, my fantasy football team, I did a fantastic job as the GM and coach there. We lost Christian McCaffrey earlier this season, and we go all the way to the Super Bowl, so that was a success, I think. But since I can't pick myself, and of course Andy Reid, I got to give Keyshawn some credit being a young buck there, going back and talking about Michael Vick and McNabb with Andy Reid. And, look, Andy Reid was so good, he made Kevin Cobb look good. Remember that? He made Kevin Cobb look so good. The Cardinals traded for Cobb, and he got here. We're like, wait a minute, what's up with this guy? That's just the Andy Reid effect. So he's amazing. But since he's already been picked, I'll go with Sean McVay. I think Sean McVay's done a fantastic job. He's won before, and when you see how they've been able to be consistent. Yeah, they had that 1 year. When you win a Super Bowl, when you're successful, you lose a lot of your players, you lose a lot of your coaches, and I think that's a sign of a good team and a good franchise and a good coach when you can be sustainable, right? You can continue to win, and that's what the Rams have done, and he's doing a fantastic job with all that's going on right now. So, I think he would be great. He would do wonders with Kyler Murray as well.
Plus, Sean McVay wins home playoff games in Arizona. He's the perfect fit. Nice job, Richard.
Exactly.
That's going to do it for us.
There you go, rubbing it in again. I see that. All right. I'm putting that in my book.
Yeah,
I'm going to write
do.
this down.
Please do. Can't wait to see it next week. It's going to do it for us on this week's version of the NFC West Huddle. A reminder, you can see every episode and all previous episodes to hold all of us accountable, along with Richard's burn book there on the Fox Local app. Thanks a lot, guys.
I still love you guys.
We'll see you again next week.